Hey everyone, welcome to the Takeaway Club podcast, where I talk to interesting people from across eclectic fields to learn about their stories, aspirations, thinking models, and pretty much anything else that contributed to their success in their field and help them get to where they are today. In the latest episode of the Takeaway Club, I speak to Tanvi Dessai, founder of Filter Coffee, which is one of the fastest growing and favorite newsletters for millennials and Gen Z to stay up to date on the Indian startup and financial ecosystem. Tanvi did her undergrad in biology and went on to study LLB. Still in law school, she started Filter Coffee as a way to scratch her own itch when she realized that the news coverage when it came to finance and startups was very outdated for the new age audience. Inspired by media powerhouses like the Morning Brew and the Hustle, who primarily wrote for the US audience, Tanvi started out by writing a summary of the daily news for her friends and family in May 2020. With a funky tone filled with humor and gifs, it didn't take long for Filter Coffee to be a hit among startup founders and operators. In less than 18 months, Tanvi has scaled the brand to 14,000 plus subscribers and added a team of writers. Best part, she's only just getting started. Without further ado, let's hear from Tanvi herself. Hey Tanvi,
Hey Krishna, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for taking the time to do this and belated happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yes, I'm a big fan of what you have done with Filter Coffee and all the thoughts that you post around building startups and your general idea of what it's like to build something in the next 5 years in the media space. Absolutely love that, and I've been tracking all of that for quite some time now, and super thrilled to finally get on a conversation and hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. I'm super thrilled we are doing this at the time we are because this just happens to be the perfect segue into whatever you have been up to, right? So, if I'm getting the timeline right, you had your law exam on Tuesday, and we had to reschedule our Wednesday conversation because you were talking with your ad partners for Filter Coffee, and you turned 23 yesterday, and here we are doing this Friday night. So, I think this week perfectly captures the roller coaster ride of Tanvi as a person. What do you feel about all this?
I mean, the whole year has been like super chaotic because honestly, like if you know my background, I come from like a science background, then I jumped into law and I'm doing something that I have absolutely no background in. So it was like I had to like tell myself that you are in it 24/7 and not just for a particular time. It took me a while to come to terms with it. I used to sometimes in the beginning get like just log off in between. Like I can't do this anymore. But then the feedback that we kept on getting from people, it just it is enough to keep you going because there are people out there who actually rely on you for their daily dose of news. So that kind of kept me going. And also, I had never achieved something of this magnitude. So it was like a competition against myself that you have to do this. It wasn't about proving myself or something. It's just something that I love doing. So I just kept at it.
Right. like like Monica Geller, right? So this year's Tanvi is gonna kick last year Tanvi's ass. Right.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. It's all about competing with yourself and not somebody else, right? So it's all about personal growth.
Amazing. So I want to get into Filter Coffee, obviously, but I also know that you have already done a couple of podcasts, including the one with broadcast. So Aishwarya and Srinidhi are good friends.
That's an amazing conversation I had with them. They're amazing people.
Absolutely, I can vouch for that as well. So I don't know. I want to make sure that anyone listening to this, please feel free to check out to whatever Tanvi said there as well. I think some of your thoughts around building and scaling a company, so they have captured it really well, right? So I want to make sure that I also touch into other aspects that you didn't really get a chance to speak about in your earlier conversations. So I think in that aspect, something that I came across is you also brought up, how people around you have helped you getting here. And I that's when I came across Tejas, your brother, right? So he has been an absolute rock by your side throughout the whole journey. And interestingly, when I was just checking out his profile, so if I'm not mistaken, he does have a bit of a tech and new media background to whatever he does. So I was just curious how much of an influence that he has had in helping you set up Filter Coffee and scale it to what it is now.
Okay, so early influences and Tejas. So basically, I don't come from a startup background, right? So I was not plugged into the ecosystem at all, and I did not know anything about it. So a lot of people helped me shape up Filter Coffee. And in terms of Tejas's influence, his background was working on Wall Street. So he basically kind of told me what was too much and what wasn't, and what I was supposed to avoid. So you can't like expect a 20 something year old to have like a clear perspective of what they are doing, right? He gave me like a good perspective to think about everything, think about the markets, think about investing, and like this is how you're supposed to think. I did not know what was acceptable in the markets and what is not, and I had no background with reference to investing and stuff. And he told me like, okay, this is how you're supposed to think about stuff. And he also kind of shaped Filter Coffee's marketing in some sense. And I was in the beginning, I was thinking of making Filter Coffee like completely informal and like completely cool and fun. And he kind of told me that early on, gaining trust was kind of the most important thing. And so we kind of went with that and did not keep it completely informal. And we kept the quality of the insights higher, and we kind of structured it so that it appeals to more knowledge workers and people who are more influential, people who are much older than the 20 something year olds, like more towards the millennial side, and people who are young but also held like these influential positions. So that he kind of played a major role in that, because he kind of helped me like have a clear idea of how to go about stuff.
That's amazing, Banmi. I know on paper siblings are supposed to be like that, but it never works. Be this pillar of support and all that. And my brother just steals snacks from me when I'm not looking at the plate. So it's amazing that you have someone like Tejas who has been helping out the way that he has. All right. Moving on from that, one of your other influences, something I feel would have definitely shaped a large part of your thinking and helping you get started is your experience at Stoa School, right? It's particularly interesting because you're already into biology, and then because you moved on to law, and that's not the typical background that you would associate with someone coming into Stoa in the first place, right? So what was that rationale behind? So how did you decide that this is something that I should be going through, right?
So about my Stoa experience, it was like no doubt amazing. So it's like you have this rock lying at home, and then you just have to polish it a bit to give it that shine, like to bring it back to shape, and then it becomes a nice object, right? So it's coming from nothing to something. So Stoa was that polishing paper for me. So Stoa kind of gave me shape. They told me that this is what people are doing, and this is what I have to do, and basically kind of gave me a platform and kind of credibility. So because when you come from a no name background, you take a very long time to get noticed or to build that credibility. And whatever you write, people don't end up reading it most of the time, because you have absolutely nothing to back you up, right? You're not connected to that circle. So Stoa gave me that experience. I met a lot of people that were amazing. That I built a very amazing network of people that I could always rely on. like people that helped me break down a lot of stuff, because most of the times I didn't quite understand what was going on, because I suck at math. So the finance part of it, like there were people who were always ready to help me out with stuff. So like this is kind of how it helped me, that it gave me that push to just put myself out there, and gave me that confidence to just talk about like my startup, or just talk about what I was doing openly.
But like you said, so the whole Stoa thing is very disconnected with your background, right? So usually it's people already in tech who have spent a few years, who's looking for a career change and all. Why did you feel like Stoa had something to offer to you in the first place?
Because they mostly deal with the business side of things, and I was already building filter coffee. So it was after
Ah,
like after I started thinking about filter coffee as a business, that I just wanted to develop that mindset. Ki, how do I go about this next? What do I do next? So it helped me shape up that mindset. Okay, this is where I want to be in a few years. This is what I want filter coffee to look like, and they helped me a lot with that.
oh, nice. So the timeline is actually filter coffee first and then Stoa.
Then Stoa, yes.
Cool. Yeah,
Like
I
filter
think
coffee started somewhere in May, and Stoa somewhere happened in late October. So like
right. And now you're one of the Stoa School Mafia rock stars. Awesome. So of course, coming to filter coffee itself, so you've been doing it for about a year and a half now. I'd love if you can give a walkthrough of your 0 to 1 journey.
So we started out as, because we wanted to build something that did not exist for us. So that's what I actually wanted to do. That I wanted something very simplified. So I just went out and started writing, and I was kind of good with writing, because in our childhood, our parents always like focused more on us reading stuff, reading long form content. But as I grew older, I saw myself getting very disconnected from reading these magazines or newspapers or consuming long form content, because the attention span started going down, right? I realized after a certain point of time, like talking to people and stuff, that everyone was facing the same problem, that the media that was at the disposal of people of my age was like totally sucked. Traditional media companies sucked. So I just went out and started writing these summaries, that they were just very raw summaries. I just started curating content and just started sending it out to my own circle, and it kind of picked up from there. A lot of people from Twitter took notice, and people, they just started sharing it in their own circles, and that kind of drove a lot of traffic. And after a certain point of time, it was like, okay, there are like people who actually depend on you for their daily dose of news. So what next? What are we going to do next? So that is when we actually started thinking about stuff like very seriously. That I brought Tejas in, because he had that marketing mind, right? He had that he had the knowledge of markets. So he just started editing the newsletter for us, so that I don't end up saying something stupid. We recently crossed 14K something subscribers, and it's been an amazing journey.
That's amazing, and I don't think it came up in any of our interactions prior to this. But I started out my career in traditional media. Thank you for calling us out when you say traditional media sucks.
Okay. You put me in a spot there now.
No, I'm just kidding. Absolutely. So there is a lot of truth to it. And as someone who has been following Morning Brew for quite some time, I've always felt that we lacked an Indian alternative to it, right? So we all love the Morning Brew, the way they write their news and all the fancy gifs and whatnot, but they don't cover Indian startup news. And for someone wanting to be updated in that ecosystem, I think you perfectly nailed that with filter coffee. I might be from traditional media, but I completely understand when you say it
I
sucks.
mean, it serves people that are quite older than us. It serves people that are our parents' age. But as the age gap increases, I mean, people of my age don't find it appealing anymore,
That's true.
because we
That's
just
true.
like news that is to the point. So
Right.
that's exactly what we ended up doing.
Right. So, been a year and a half, and you're into 14,000 plus subscribers and counting. And can you look back at any specific incidents or instances where you were like, wow, so I don't think this is just Tanvi curating news for her friends and family anymore. So Filter Coffee is a bigger brand than me as a person.
Okay, so it wasn't just one moment. There were a couple of moments, like when we went about hiring and stuff, and like the stuff. But one moment that I remember in particular was when, in the initial stages, like after we crossed 1,000 subscribers, the credibility increased, right? So people from Twitter that were renowned VCs, renowned in like CEOs of good companies, CEOs of like startups or companies that had raised good amounts of money, like just started signing up for the newsletter. And that was that was like a breakthrough moment for us, because we did not expect people like that to come and read Filter Coffee, right? Because I to be honest, I just started writing for my friends. Like it was very informal and it was like funny and stuff. But when these people started coming in, it actually kind of got me thinking that it's not just the people of our age that are facing that media problem, that they don't find stuff that they enjoy reading, or they don't find stuff that simple, or like it's very simplified, or like obviously there are a lot of like media companies that they do simplify stuff, but then sometimes it becomes a bit like too much, because at the end of the day you just want to consume something that's very simplified, right? So when these people started coming in, it was kind of like, okay, it's not just us, it's also a lot of other people who are older than us, who are also facing the same problem. So that is when we started thinking about this very seriously. Okay, we actually have to like think about this in the long term. What are we going to do and what are we going to be? So that's just how it dawned on me.
Right. When you started, like you said, there was very little that you probably had to take care, right? So you just put your head down and you'd be writing and you'd be sending out to your friends and family. You didn't really have to think through, should I be putting this in the newsletter or not? But at some point that would have changed, right? Especially when you had people coming in regularly reading. There is a change in dynamics, right? So how did you approach it?
Okay, so I never really gave it that much thought in the beginning, because people used to sign up because they liked what they read, right? So depending on if I changed the way I wrote because there were some influential people signing up, that wouldn't make sense, right? So the whole point was being as raw as possible, as genuine as possible, just keeping things very authentic and just saying what I wanted to say, and people took that very well. So there are a lot of times where we end up thinking that people might actually get offended with what we write, but they actually end up enjoying it, because like it takes kind of honestly, it takes kind of guts to just say what you want to say, right? Because we just like don't say stuff because like for any reason that like people might get offended or whatever. So also that switching gears part, like that mindset change from being just a newsletter writer to the business operator is about just kind of switching gears, and it's like you now have an audience, you have a big audience, like what are you going to do next? So it's basically the job of a founder is to basically make sure that the bills are paid, right? So what exactly are you going to do next? How exactly are you going to monetize? And that was a huge shift for me, because I had absolutely no idea how people approach people, or how you even
uh, how has this experience been like for you as a 23-year-old, whether it's running the operations or speaking with ad partners or hiring and managing interns? These are some of the work items that you're doing it for the first time ever, right?
when I started out, I remember being very underconfident, and like even scared to just informally type out an email. I used to just read it again and again to make sure that there were absolutely no mistakes in it. But then, as you just keep moving, because you just cannot focus on one email, right? You have other stuff to respond to as well. So it just kind of came naturally that like, okay, this is what I want to say, I'm just saying it, the message gets delivered, and this is what I wanted to convey, you understand it, and that's what I had to say. So I just don't think too much about it now. And also it's about putting yourself out there, because like it's my product, it's my startup. I have to talk about it very actively because nobody else is going to do that for me, right? So you have to put yourself out there. You have to go and talk to people for them to notice you or whatever. So if you don't actively talk about it, then like nobody else will. So it's totally on you to make sure that you actively speak about it, you actively post about it, tweet about it. So it's all on you.
One more question on the same line. Just now that you have a team of people, you have a few interns and everyone coming in writing, how do you make sure that voice gets trickled down to the rest of the team?
Okay, so it's kind of like the team that I have right now. The five of us are in the same age group as me, so it's kind of gets easy to convey the message to them. So it's not like they have a very rigid mindset, right? So we kind of discuss something, we have a clash, we ask each other why is this happening. So like it's like we are building something that we wished existed. So it's kind of very difficult, it becomes very easy to convey the message to them. So the whole goal is to not make things difficult, use buzzwords, or use like keep it very very simple, and make sure that we don't beat around the bush, so that the message is conveyed in a very clear manner. So like they kind of understand it, so it becomes a lot easier.
Do you have anything particular in terms of evaluating people who want to come on board? So you have to know these pop culture references, or you have to know what the hottest GIF this month is, because that's so integral to what you do at Filter Coffee. So anything that you wouldn't expect from a typical company's hiring process?
I always like the people that I have on board right now are they always keep me on my toes, asking questions again and again and again, just kind of getting on my nerves as well sometimes. But that kind of helps me think. So it's kind of like it's not pop culture references can be taught. You can ask them to watch something and they'll understand it, right? So that's not really a requirement, but uh, it's like they kind of have to start thinking where you stop thinking, because then if you all think alike, then there will be no brainstorming, they'll be just saying yes to whatever I propose, right? So that's one thing I look for, that they like kind of tell me that no, this is not going to work. Like they kind of challenge me, they kind of get me to think more, and that is what I look for.
I think that's fair enough. Pop cultures can be taught. So that should be the headline of the show, I guess. Right. Um, so I noticed that recently you've been rolling out a lot of good initiatives. So the coffee leaderboard was something that I absolutely loved, because I don't think I've ever come across anyone doing that right now, at least in India. So what are some of the things that you have been in terms of scaling your business that you have been proactively doubling down on, and what are some things that you're like, okay, let me take a back seat for the time being and let things run its course?
Okay, I have a few examples here. We have coffee points. So I'll get into the details in a bit. So we were a bit skeptical about rolling them out, because we thought that people won't welcome this change, or we didn't know how people were going to take it, right? So that's one thing. After rolling it out, we realized that people actually like this. People like the change. And like they welcomed it, because they were loyal coffee readers for a very long time, and they saw that they have been reading it for the past year or something, and it was like very exciting for them, and they took it really well. And another one is when we started taking ads. So we thought that maybe we'll see a churn, because people don't like seeing ads between their content, right? So we kind of, to avoid that, we delayed taking ads for a very long time. There were a lot of people approaching us, asking us that they want to advertise in the newsletter, but we were just like, we'll wait for a while, we'll wait for a while. And I don't know why. I have absolutely no idea why we waited for so long. But then we started taking ads, and people actually liked that. Um, and we didn't just take ads from just anybody. We kind of put that filter wherein we kind of thought to ourselves, okay, will this add value to our users? Will this add value to the community? So it was mostly fintech or neo-banking apps or whatever. So people actually welcomed the change. So one like my takeaway from that would be that people actually like change. So whatever you think will not work out sometimes ends up working out for you.
I mean, that's true. So some of the best things are things that you don't expect to really happen,
Expect, yes,
right?
absolutely.
Um, so what is the road like, say for the next 12 months, 24 months? So you are still in law school. So something that I keep, forgetting every now and then in the conversation. So
I keep forgetting that too.
what is the road ahead look for both Tanvi and Filter Coffee?
A lot of things actually. I mean, Coffee Points was one such thing where we obviously was our kind of way to get our most engaged readers understand how they were consuming our content, and also a way of sort of to get our members more involved in the community. So it's kind of a community where like it's product driven, right? So we have completely grown it organically up to this point, and it's one way of keeping the people engaged. So they liked going through their points and everything, but we are kind of tying that consumption of media to something else that we are building. I mean, I can't get into it much right now, but you'll see it in another month or so. I mean, all I can say is that it's something really super cool.
Amazing. So I look forward to it. So yeah, and one of the things that I think I mentioned in the earlier part of the conversation as well is you don't just stop at filter coffee, right? So you talk about it extensively. So that whole built-in public aspect is in full swing with whatever you do, right? And that has given me a very good window into um, how you think through these things in a medium and long term perspective, right? So in that aspect, so what are some of the things that you are looking forward to in the way that new media businesses are going to evolve in India in the next few years?
So it's like I am long on tech plus media, where I mainly because of distribution. So as everything goes remote, community and distribution like becomes the most important thing that like a company can have. So we can take the example of a SaaS company, like for example HubSpot that acquired Hustle, right? So like they did that because they got a whole lot of distribution from Hustle, wherein they were a SaaS company where they could use Hustle's distribution to get their word out. So it's like you don't have to go out and specifically market your product or market your company. So you already have this built-in media where you can use it, where people come to content for you. So going ahead, I think this will be the trend. For example, Robinhood has Robinhood Snacks. So it'll be like they have their investing app as well as the content that they have. So it's like combined, they are kind of unbeatable. So this is, I think, will go like this will be the future.
So first build distribution and then build your product. So
Yes, sort of. Yes.
something that
Like it also kind of helps you build that credibility. So if you just have your product and you don't have distribution, so you're just screaming into the void, right? So it won't be of any use as well. And you have distribution, you don't have product, kind of like goes both ways.
right. So I have one last question before we jump into something called the random deck. With great power comes great responsibility, and it holds so much uh, true for a media business than a lot of other businesses, right? So how do you feel like you are handling or you intend to handle it where at some point you're going to evolve from this curator to somebody that people really counts on to what happens in the ecosystem, right? So that I feel that that will be a different kind of change to whatever you're doing already. So how do you go about thinking that?
I won't call myself like leader into like where people like completely depend on me. Like we could be more than that. We could not be more, like we might not be more than that. Like we're still kind of trying to figure it out how things are going to look like for filter coffee in the coming 1 month or like for 5 months. So you guys will find out. Like that's all I can say about this.
Right.
And the one question that you asked me before, it's not just like a media business that we are focusing on. Like a lot of angles that we're thinking about. So building more stuff for the community and just serving the community better.
All right. I think I'm a lot more excited about filter coffee than I was at the beginning of this conversation. So, with that, we'll jump into something called the random deck, which is basically me asking a bunch of unrelated questions. Here goes the first one. So, what is an absolute non negotiable for you in life?
Oh no, something that I won't be willing to give up on is like like this, whatever it is that I'm doing. Like I get this question, if I don't know if it fits here, but I get this question where I choose between law and filter coffee, where I don't have an answer to that. I mean, I love both, but it's like it's a question of what do I love doing more. So it's like filter coffee over everything else. So
What is your favorite word in English?
like let me think about it. I would say commitment, because it's it, like the meaning of the word like is the exact reason why I like it, because you're just committed to something, you're just wholeheartedly doing something.
What is something that you want to be known for when you're 80 years old?
For being kind.
That's amazing. What is a good habit that you're trying to work into your life and a bad habit that you're trying to get rid of?
I am a night owl, but I kind of don't like that because it does not fit into my schedule. I like to wake up like really early, like be the early bird. So I'm still working on that, and I hope I'll get there.
So, who has been the biggest inspiration?
I had this teacher back in 10th standard. I think everybody like has like this special relationship with their English teachers. So I had this one particular teacher in 10th standard. So he never listened to anybody. He was just doing his own thing, and that is one thing I took from him, that like no matter what happens, you just have to be yourself. You just have to just say what you're feeling, say what you're thinking. Just go out and talk, like just not hold anything in, just be yourself, and just that's like my huge inspiration.
I love it. And I love the part where he said everybody likes their English teachers, right? Got to do with the fact that we don't like math, right? I have a
Yes, maybe
feeling.
it's just got to do with the fact that we love the subject as well. So it's like we hate math, we end up hating the teacher, but we like English, so we end up loving the teacher.
So, what is your superpower at work?
My superpower is I can multitask.
Nice. I was expecting I'm good at finding relevant gifs.
That too, yes.
If there was a billboard in every town in the world and you get to decide what goes on into that billboard.
I would say just be yourself.
Nice. Awesome. So yeah, thank you, Tanvi. I think this is one of the most bang for buck, in terms of time that I've spent on the conversation and the actual insights that I've gotten out of this. So I hope you had as much fun as I did with the chat.
Yes, I did. I mean, you kind of actually got me thinking about a lot of stuff. So I had a very good conversation. It was really good.